All right, guys. Well, welcome. Welcome to Next Level by Association, presented by Everything Next Level. And tonight we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time as we always do, but tonight we're going to have a really good time because we're talking to somebody who has done some exceptional things, has lived an exceptional life, and more importantly, he's taken that word parlay into something that is forever. That's it's a legendary. It's creates a legacy, and I think one of the coolest things is that his story is going to be amazing. But I think more than anything, and you've heard me say this, I'm more impressed with who someone is than what they've done, and who they are is more important than what they do because who they are will determine the quality of anything and everything that they do. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before we jump into that, guys, go ahead and invite your friends. Tell them to come in. They can come in on Zoom and invite them to come on, check in, let us know who they are. But I want to just check with you. I see a couple of guys on already. So Jim Miller. Hey, brother, go ahead and come on camera.
Hey, hi, Bob.
Jim. Hey there, brother. Introduce you to Manny Cabo. Manny, well, you'll see a lot about him, but Jim is an leadership expert and a really good guy, member of Next Level by Association. So I want to make sure that you guys get to connect because after the show, Manny has to head out for a flight. So, but wanted to at least introduce you guys.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Hi, Manny.
Hey, how are you? Pleasure meeting you, Jim.
Pleasure is mine. I saw your video. Bob showed your video on from The Voice.
Awesome.
It's fantastic.
I appreciate
Looking forward to hearing your story.
That's a
tonight.
fun one. It was a fun one, that's for
Oh,
sure.
I bet. Yeah, you were just letting it go. That was so much fun to watch.
I was
Gonna be
definitely
fun.
living in the moment. Yep.
Gonna be fun. So let's bring Alana up. Alana. You guys can both be on camera here. You can both stay on camera. Hey, Alana, this is Manny.
Hey, Alana.
Manny, Alana is really involved in social work, helping people, helping veterans. A
Awesome.
lot of great people. She's a really big personal development person.
Awesome.
Always looking to learn and grow. So, Alana, meet Manny.
How are you?
Thank
Alana?
you. I'm just from the short introduction. I'm looking forward to hearing you and getting to know you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here, definitely.
Fun times. So we're gonna jump into this. Manny, one, at what age did you determine you want to go on to performing on, say, The Voice or anything else?
I have to tell you, man, it's funny, but when I do discuss this, people are usually taken back because I was a late bloomer. I didn't really start singing until I was like 28, 29 years old. I was a baseball player prior to all this. Baseball was my life. I got cut from my grammar school teams. It wasn't good enough. And then the last year I came back, we won the city champs. And then fast forward a couple years later, and I ended up transferring to a Division I high school where there were tons of scouts. I got multiple full scholarships. I got drafted to play pro ball. And then, I took a scholarship to Florida, and it was great for the first year. And then I tore my rotacuff. My baseball career was over. But thankfully, my dad, who's no longer with us, but he was the one who instilled every bit of creativity in these bones of mine, from photography to introducing me to drums. And it started off as a humble beginning, getting behind the kid and playing some shows here and there. And then, I took a hiatus for a few years to do the corporate world, and then came back at my last year of college here at Seton Hall University, and I just started playing again, and I missed it, because being an artist, as pretentious as it sounds, it's something that you're born with, and you can't escape it because it's always this haunting feeling of, hey, I'm here. Don't forget about me. I'm not going to let you forget. There was always this deep affinity for music, and it just so happens that I had a voice. I did some background vocals from time to time, and there was an occasion when there was a local show here at the university, and I was just performing a gig, and one of our lead singers, they got sick. I started singing, and the rest, as they say, was history, man. They didn't laugh. They're like, wait a second, what are you doing back there? You should get up in front. I loved being on stage. I loved being the center of attention. It's my happy place. And that was it. That's the way it started.
Wow. Well, it shows that that's your happy place. When we've played this
Yeah.
video here coming up in a little bit, it shows. It definitely is. You know, it's interesting that you took the roundabout way to get to where you're at,
Mm.
and yet you've made something happen out of that opportunity that a lot of people get the opportunity and they don't know what to do with it. How
Yeah.
did you know what to do where you could make a life of it?
I didn't. I'm the type of person where, throughout the years and developing myself as a multifaceted artist, I always lived in the moment. I try to cultivate my craft, learn as much as I possibly can with whatever I was, delving into at the time. And certainly music was always one of them. But from a vocal standpoint, I think the turning point on the show was, being interviewed by the production. They're like, you know what, Manny, same question you just addressed. Like, what is it about these shows? Why do you want to be here? And I told them straight out, I can't stand these shows. I don't want to be here. I have two guys that are going to kick my ass if I don't follow through with this, right?
Yeah, and
And
that just made them want you more.
well, that's exactly what happened, and it goes to show you. I've always been a proponent for authenticity and integrity, and they loved the fact that I was so truthful and so transparent because my intention wasn't to be on the show, wasn't for the accolades, wasn't for all the attention and the social media hoorah, and all the fanfare. I was just there living in the moment, and whatever happens, happens. But rest assured, I would do my due diligence to at least make it my worthwhile. And sure enough,
Yeah.
it came time to the performance, and I crushed it. And people didn't realize the severity of me being in that moment, in so much that the voice, it wasn't about singing. I got to tell you about it wasn't about singing. The voice was the place where I found my purpose. And it wasn't singing, it was using my voice to inspire and empower and educate. Because during that, what was it, 3-month trajectory, I had like 25, 30, 40 of the contestants in my hotel room, and I was explaining to them about living in the moment and forget about the 90 seconds that you're performing because it'll pass you by. Instead, nurture these moments, right? Cultivate these relationships that you're making, learn from one another. So I gave them this totally different perspective, in so much as that when I left the show, even the production team were crying because I made so many friends. Sometimes they'd have to pull me off the set because I was making friends with the camera guys. As a photographer, it was a special place for me. There was a lot of empathy. We were talking about lenses and apertures. They're like, Manny, come on, man, you got to get back on stage. What are you doing? So they all knew. They all knew. Like, I was a character, but at the same time, I was very honest. And I didn't have any ill will or malicious intentions or as they would say, an attention whore, as they would say. And I was just there to live in the moment and really enjoy myself. And evidenced by my performance, I think I lived up to that, that reverence of understanding the value of being in that particular place and not being distracted by all the other nonsense. I learned to kill the noise, throughout the years, especially on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I think that this whole being in the moment,
Mm.
you mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah.
How did you train yourself, or did you train yourself, or did you have somebody inspire you to do that? Because I don't think most people know how to be in the moment
Yeah.
versus, and most people don't know how to be very present with each other
Mm.
either. How did you
And
learn that?
that's true. It came from a lot of hardship, a lot of trial and error. And I've had a lot of hardships in my life. And over the past 3 years, I don't know if you know, but obviously the pandemic happened. Then throughout the pandemic, I lose my dad to COVID. And obviously he was the reason I became anything creative. And then fast forward 9 months later, Hurricane Ida washed away $80,000 of my livelihood, all my photography equipment, all my music equipment, all my podcasting equipment, my entire livelihood gone, literally washed away, you know. And it
Mm.
was at those moments where I realized, listen, the past is gone, okay? And the future is yet to be here. So the most solid way to determine how my future outcome will be is to focus on the now. Sure, I could have opted to focus on the void and what was gone, what I had lost, or I could say, listen, gratitude is another component of that combination with respect to living in the moment. I said, I focused on the gratitude of all that still remained. I still had my life. 200 people, rather 200 feet down the road, 4 people perished. They're no longer here to tell the story. I survived, so did my family. So sure, there were many times where I'm looking at that little corner where I would squat down and cry like a little boy, um,
Mm.
and wonder why. Why is this all happening? And sure, you have to mourn, you have to take the time. And I've always counseled, my counterparts and people in the industry, friends, whatever. I said, listen, whatever emotion you truly feel, whether it's happy, whether it's sad, whether it's anger, you feel those emotions. You have to come to grips and embrace those emotions. And during that time, I felt this overload of sadness. But I also realized that I'll face it, I'll live it, I'll own it, but I got to let go. Manny's got work to do now. I've got 3 girls that I've got to take care of. So I think it was that attitude that I had to hasten to leave this point of sadness to start becoming more productive. So I use that as an impetus to focus on the things that I was truly grateful for that I needed to do without worrying about the outcome. Listen, I'm
Mhm.
going to do the best job I can. And the only way to do that is to truly focus in the now. Especially us, we artists are emotional creatures. We get too wedded to these emotions. And that's great when you're in the process of creation, but not when you're in the process of having to forge ahead and make a living, you know?
Amen.
Uh, so it was an arduous task, don't get me wrong, to make that transition. But I knew that it was very binary for me. Either I stay here and wallow in my sadness and do nothing and get eaten up by you know, these ill feelings, or make the transition and say, okay, it happened. What am I going to do? I'm still here. Now it's time to, pick myself up, wash my hands, and let's see what I can put together to, for the next chapter in my life,
Mm.
as I
Mm.
said. So
Mm.
it's just a matter of committing to making that decision to move forward now. And again, I want to stress the fact that I wasn't trying to ignore my feelings or to downplay them. I felt them, and I felt them. I was so many. It was a culmination of emotions that I was feeling. But I said, "Listen, the hell with this. I'm done. I felt it great. I'm done. I'm sad. I cried. I angered. Punched the wall. Whatever I had to do. Now it's time to get to work, Manny. Let's do this."
Good for
I
you.
know. I know that was a
Thank,
little long-winded, but I
no,
think
no,
it's
it's a perfect
necessary to
answer.
really go through those steps because people really need to understand it's not
It
an
is.
overnight thing. It's a
Right. And
process.
people don't understand that you have to live your life. You have
Yeah,
to
you
live it
do.
and feel it.
Hmm.
And I think so many people are just struggling because they haven't ever taken the time to just feel
Yeah,
what they've lived,
yeah,
and then they haven't lived it, period.
yeah.
So thank you for
We're
sharing that. And
it's a Western world mentality. We're so used to going 100 miles an hour.
so true.
And believe me, I am too. But there has to be a point in time where you have to slam on the brakes and take time to smell the roses, man. You have to.
Yeah, so true.
Mm,
We met because I tuned into a mutual friend of ours, Aaron Lay's um,
Aaron, yes, he's
podcast,
awesome.
and
Yeah,
I didn't know you were going to be on there. I just hopped on to support Aaron, and then
yeah,
I listened to you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's really a great guy. I want to get to know. And then about that time, Aaron says, this is Bob Donnell, and introduced me, or kind of suggested
yeah,
my name,
yeah.
and so that's how we connected.
Mm,
And I just thank you, Aaron. When you watch this, she's going to try and hop on, but thank you, Aaron, for the connection. Um,
yes, definitely. Thank you,
I
Manny.
want to tell you one just based on the life that I've experienced with you, just the short time that we've talked. I just
Yeah.
want to tell you thank you for being the guy that went through all that, stayed present enough to who you are and who you want to be, so that you can set the example for the rest of us. So thank
Oh,
you
you're
for doing.
welcome. You're welcome. It's the least that I can do, man. I've always been firm on living by example, and you have to, sometimes you have to walk the walk, to show other people, and I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have time to mince words. I don't have time to sidestep from the truth and the reality, because I feel at that point, if I do, I'm doing a disservice to somebody. And here's the other thing. If they have a problem with what I'm saying, if my, for use of a better word, constructive criticism or guidance offends someone, that's not my problem. That's
Yeah,
their problem. There's an
that's
inner
right.
void or an insecurity that they have to face themselves with. That's why I have no problems telling people the honest truth. I know my truth and I live that. All I try to do is encourage others to follow suit.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate. I can certainly appreciate that, and I think one of the things that I really do appreciate as well is I hear this sense of almost responsibility that you feel
Mm,
to use these experiences
mm,
to impact and to help others.
yeah.
I love the fact that you were telling the story about how during the competition they're up in your room. The competitors are up in the room, and you're coaching them,
Yeah.
telling them about life. And
Yeah.
how old were you at that time?
I was 45 years old. Here I'm talking to 18-year-olds, like kids, little punk kids, and they're like, Uncle Manny here and there. And it's when I look back, hindsight, everything is 2020, of course. And I think back, and the one statement that I always remember is my roommate, James Dupree, who's a huge country star now.
Yeah.
He I've photographed 5 of his latest album releases, because I've made a career out of my music. I kind of bridge the gap, so I get to learn and I get to understand artists and dealing with
Mm,
record labels. But the point I'm trying to make is, he said the one thing that we talked about when you left the show was, you taught us there's no such thing as losing. We're all going to go home. There's only going to be one winner, but that one winner will lose as well. Because at the end of the day, these are all journeys that we take. And when they were crying that I left, I'm like, guys, my chapter here is done. I'm needed elsewhere to write a new chapter. And all
mm,
of you will be faced with that as well at some point. So let me be this teaching moment for you. And it opened up all of their eyes. And like, man, thank you so much. Because even when I was voted off the show, I know that I would have been sad had it not been you, that I wouldn't have had this fresh perspective to think
mm.
about, that, wow, I'm going home. It's cool. I did what I had to do, because listen, man, we had to compete against 70,000 other contestants. We won
70,000.
already. We
Holy cow.
won. You were the final 100. I was part of that group. We are already winners.
Mm, mm.
Enjoy the ride, people. Why
No
put
doubt.
unnecessary pressure on yourself? And the
No
reason why
doubt.
most people fail is they overwhelm themselves with the uncertainty. Okay, so if you're going to do that, just cut that middleman out and just enjoy this particular moment and let the outcome come organically. Most of the things
Mm,
that we worry about 99.9% of the time never come to fruition. There's a quote, as a matter of fact, our mutual friend Aaron said,
mm,
worrying is like, worrying about, or the responsibility of a bill that you'll never have to pay. And it makes
mm.
perfect sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why do we do that to each other? I
Uh,
just,
Why do you
it
think we
makes no
do it?
sense.
Why do you think people do that?
I don't know. It's these self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs. We're so inclined to think negatively about everything. It's a human species thing. We're always thinking negative thoughts. It's so much easier to be in a place of discomfort because it's relative to your daily activity.
Yeah.
We're not taught to be optimistic, be positive. Everything will work out in the very end. We're so accustomed to these instilled ideologies from our
Mm,
parents and their ancestors, dating back to however long it is. We've
right.
become materialists, and we rely solely on our senses, look, touch, taste, and not realizing there's other possibilities out there that we are fully in control over. We are frequencies.
Mm,
We could attract the things that we desire, the things that we are completely in alignment with other people, but we
yeah.
don't exhaust those opportunities. We don't
Mm,
understand that because they're so clouded with this modern day mentality of no, you got to work hard and struggle. You know, it's just, I laugh about it because, I used to be one of those that thought that way. But for some reason, I have to tell you, Bob, that somewhere along the way, the light bulb went off, uh, prematurely, thankfully for that. Because once I understood, wait a second, there's got to be a better way than this. There's no way I was so focused and I acknowledged the behaviors around me. I'm like, wow, I noticed how miserable people are. I noticed this pattern that everyone lives in, and it's really not healthy. It's a facade. The end result that they predict will happen usually doesn't. Too many sick people in the world. I'm like, no way. There's got to be a better way. So at that point, I just did some due diligence, started reading, and started getting into frequencies, and started getting into um, neurology and studying the brain. People like Joe Dispenza and Bob Proctor, who now I'm working with Proctor and Gallagher on so many things. And
Awesome.
it's amazing, but you start hanging around the people that think on a more elevated level, right? And then you start associating yourself with those possibilities. It's the same thing. Conversely, if you put a person in a room with 10 criminals, in 6 months, that person will probably be a criminal because that's all they know.
Right.
So it's who
Right.
you associate yourself with. It's very, very important. So I was just trying to put myself in place for them to give them a different option. That's it. And I think the option that I gave them was more fruitful than the commonplace that we're used to, which is like,
Yeah.
oh, getting upset and getting emotionally butthurt or being insecure or feeling jealous and all the other nonsense feelings that we feel.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. I can guarantee you that many of those are still replaying some of the lessons that they learned from you. So that's really cool.
Well, I hope so, right?
Yeah, oh, I'm sure they have, definitely.
My only intention was to uplift. So
I want to play the video, and because I want people to see what I saw. I mean, when I first saw it, I've already told you I've watched it 10, 12 times, and every time I go, dang, he's so good. So let's
I
just play it so
appreciate
people
that,
can
man.
watch it.
Sure.
Well, I don't know where the YouTube went to. It disappeared. Why does they do that sometimes? Well, shoot. I think I might have to share it.
Yeah, whatever you got to do. No worries.
It's just weird. I just was watching it before we hopped on, and
It
it's
happens, man. Technology, boy.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Well, let me just do this real quick.
Sure.
Well, hopefully you're still there.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, because it turned my video off. There. Okay,
There it
there's
is.
me back. Okay. That is really bizarre. And it's showing video. I can hear me, I can see me, but I can't see you now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It says I can't start my video because you stopped it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I stopped it. Okay. There you are. There you are. Flo probably did that. I'm gonna have to play the video afterwards, insert it because it's not showing up.
That's all right.
That is
I've seen
really,
it. I've seen it. No,
you've
I
seen
lived
it,
it.
yeah. You lived it. But
Yeah.
I shared it out today a few times, but I'll share it again tonight. I'll put the
Awesome.
link in, or if Flo finds it, she can put it in there. But guys, man, when you perform, Manny,
Yeah.
I mean, it was electric. I mean, even Adam Levine was like blown away. I mean, he slapped the button so quick, and then he was just like dying for you to pick him. He
Yeah.
even said, "I'm gonna be so bummed out if you don't pick me." What was that? What did that feel like when that first button was pressed and you saw it was Adam Levine turning?
I don't know. I see. Here's the thing. What you see on TV, I didn't see because I was so in the moment, performing, obviously.
Yeah.
And if you notice, the lights were so bright that I couldn't tell the chairs were turned because they were off to the side. They're not directly in front of you. They're actually off to the angle, off to the right.
Oh.
So when all was said and done, I didn't know all four judges, had turned.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was only when the lights came up that I'm like, wow. And at that point, I didn't know if they were all turned around because the song was over or because they actually,
Really?
opted to turn. Yeah. So that was even
That's
that
wild.
was even more gratifying when I found out. I'm like, really, it was almost like, wow, one of those moments. Um,
Man.
so truth be told, yeah, I wasn't aware. And it's almost that hypnotic state that I always talk about, the expressions that you hear, they're in flow of things, they're in the zone type of vibe. And
Yeah.
that's an exemplification of what that truly means when you're in the zone. Nothing else matters. It's just you and the performance. And at that point, I'm actually, I've written 3 books. The fourth book is going to be just about that, about we artists and how we get into this particular zone without disclosing too much. It's that place where all the elements of creativity go out the window, and now you're just living in that moment of everything that you've learned,
Hmm.
which now you forget about because now it's all programmed in the subconscious. Now we could just enjoy ourselves in that moment and acquire
Hmm.
all the new information from that particular moment and just crush it. Whether it's sports or whether it's music or whether you're a scientist. But once you get to that level where now I could just truly, truly flourish in this moment, not knowing what's going to happen, but you've done the work prior to this, leading up to this point, the work has been done. The lyrics have been memorized, the choreography has been gone over at nauseum, and the vocal parts have definitely been executed over and over again. Now it's just time to rock out.
Hmm. I think I got the video queued, so we're gonna try it.
Yeah, let's try it. Take 2.
Take 2. Yeah, an impossible choice is for sure what I would call that. But there had to have been a thought process that you went through to make that decision. What was that thought process?
It's funny. Initially, I was inclined to choose Blake. That's what I told my daughter I
Really?
was do. Yeah, that was my first decision. I guess, the power of words coming from someone that is relatable, you know, like Adam.
Yeah.
See, you never take advice from somebody who's never done something that you desire.
Hmm.
And he's done all the things. He's in the industry. He's in the genre of where I would like to excel. So it made perfect sense for me. It was kind of like a no-brainer,
So why
especially
were you thinking Blake?
well, I have this affinity for country music, and Blake is just an incredible artist, performer, singer. Loved his style of music, and he's just a sweetheart of a guy.
Hmm.
So I appreciate good, humble people as well. And sometimes I got to tell you, I don't care how talented you are. I'd rather deal with polite and kind people over talent any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Because talent becomes a problem after a while. Egos get in the way. So I've experienced both sides of the spectrum, and I kind of lean toward the former. I like nice people.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
with you. I'm with you on that for sure. I
yeah,
love the country song. I love "Humble and Kind" by Tim McGraw. I mean, it's such a
yeah,
great song. It just
yeah.
is exactly what you're talking about. I just love
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
connection with that
absolutely,
song.
absolutely.
You know, Manny, what was? I mean, when you're watching it, it looks like you're right in front of them and you get to see
Yeah.
everything. And It's so different than it sounds like. What was the biggest surprise to you when you got to that point?
I think it was prior to the actual performance. It was, you know, it wasn't scary performing. It's the total opposite vibe that I get. Most people, it's funny when you start doing research and all the hearsay that people would rather commit suicide than public speak. And I find that to be so ironic, and mind-boggling. For me, I think the most intimidating factor of the entire trip came right before that particular performance. And I always talk about it, when they escort you, first of all, everything is dark. And I remember I was sitting there meditating and she had to shake me prior. She's like, "It's your time to go, Manny. Let's go." So, and as she escorted me, there's these 3 steps that you have to climb up because it's very dark. They have the flashlight and they're guiding you where. So you're walking up. And then they hand you your microphone. So the time is about to, drop. And then they say, "Okay, go." Once they give you that cue, then you're walking, the curtain opens, and then you just hear this, your feet walking up on stage. You could hear a pin drop. And that room is packed with people. There must be at least 1,000 people in the seats. Nobody's saying anything. And then as you're walking, on my peripheral left, you see 3 tiers of all the executives with the light of the laptop flashing on their faces and all their headsets just like this. And they're looking at you. And then you look to the right, there's another 2, 3 tiers of executives watching you. 14 million people are about to watch this, right? And all eyes are on you. If that's not pressure, I don't know what is. It's like that's what one of the things that I loved about baseball. I love being in control. I'm not going to lie. I'm a control freak. So as a pitcher, the game does not start until I let go and throw the pitch. So it was the same thing. Nothing starts until I was ready to sing. Then you hit the 4 count on the hi hat. And again, the rest, as they say, was history, evidenced by the performance. It's a performance that changed my life. But there was a lot of preparation leading up to that point. But yeah, that was certainly one of the most epic, intimidating, and overwhelming moments throughout that entire journey.
I can't even imagine it. So when you're painting the picture of the lights down and the curtains open and
Yeah,
the mic going into your hand, when you're painting that, I'm just going, oh
yeah.
man, that would
You
be
could hear
so
your heartbeat.
exciting.
Yeah,
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 but your
yeah.
heart would have to be coming out of your chest for me at
Yeah,
least.
no, no, I see. I live for
And I love
moments like that.
speaking, so it's not
Yeah,
the speaking part of it, but
yeah,
wow.
yeah. It's
I
everything
think
leading up to
speaking and
that.
performing are very different. But you do both very well. So
Uh,
I think that's pretty exciting. I think one of the
I just
biggest
enjoy it. I
surprises,
just enjoy it, Bob.
well, and it shows. I mean, I think that's what Adam saw as soon as
Mm,
he turned around was, oh my gosh, this is somebody who's actually living his life right now,
yeah,
not
right,
just doing something as a job or something else. So I was
right.
blown away by that. I want to open it up for some Q&A because I want to make sure that
Sure.
we get you out on time.